Hello, my name is Blossoms and welcome to another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to be showcasing and showing off the different talents and constellations of Bennett, the Pyro Sword users. One of you in the comments actually requested him, so I decided to splurge a little bit and I spent about 30 bucks on some wishes, and I just happened to get lucky enough to get Bennett, and now I'm so happy I did because I actually wanted him myself because his elemental burst might be replacing my main healer. I also managed to go ahead and get a 5-star sword because I hit pity and I didn't get a character. F's in the chat, right? But before we get in the video, are you subscribed? You could be. It's a simple click below and I would really appreciate it. You can always change your mind later. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the talents and constellations of Bennett. For Bennett's first talent here, we have nothing too special. He has his normal attack that performs up to 5 rapid strikes, his charged attack, which deals 2 rapid sword strikes, and a plunging attack for your typical AoE damage. And here are the skill attributes for those of you interested. Here is Bennett's normal attack here. Pretty good pattern here. And then this is what the charged attack looks like. And some of you might notice you might be able to cancel your normal attack here and go into the charged attack. However, I would recommend just finishing out the normal attack because of those, if you didn't notice in the actual skill attributes for the normal attack, you just deal more damage if you keep going with the normal attack instead of flowing into the charged attack. Little weird, but that's all right with me. And let's go ahead and see if we can find a ledge for this plunge attack. Nothing too crazy, your typical sword plunge attack, and he spins it in the air, pretty finesse. But let's go ahead and get to those other talents. For Bennett's second talent here, we have Passion Overload. Bennett puts all his fire and passion for adventuring into his sword. Results may vary based on how fired up he is. On press, a single swift flame strike that deals pyro damage. And then when you hold it, it charges up, resulting in different effects when unleashed based on the charge level. Level 1 strikes twice, dealing pyro damage and launching enemies. Level 2 unleashes 3 consecutive attacks and deals an impressive pyro damage, but the last attack triggers an explosion that launches both Bennett and the enemy. However, Bennett takes no damage from being launched. That's important to note because it definitely looks like you take damage, but you don't. So, you know, it's just it's a good little thing to have on the back of your head there. Here is the different attributes for those of you interested. And here is the skill in action. That is the single swipe. Nice and sweet, adding that little pyro to everybody. And then the first charge up here. Nice little uppercut. And then the final charge here is like this. That's the explosion that draws you back. It's actually very nice for damage and separating you from the enemy if they are closing in just a little bit too much to your liking. One thing I wanted to note about the Passion Overload here is that the cooldown does vary based on how much you charge it up, and I also wanted to show off the scaling of the different abilities when you level it up. For Bennett's third talent here, we have Fantastic Voyage. Now this is the ability I was talking about, which might be replacing me just having a main healer like Barbara, because this does a pretty darn good job at healing as long as you're paying attention. Bennett leaps towards the enemy and performs a plunging attack, dealing pyro damage and creating an inspiration field. This is a nice little pyro AoE. It doesn't actually mention that, but it does do pyro in an AoE and then creates a circle in which that is called a inspiration field here. If the health of a character in the circle is equal to or falls below 70%, their health will continuously regenerate. Regeneration scales based on Bennett's max HP. If the health of a character in the circle is higher than 70%, they gain an attack bonus that is based on Bennett's base attack, and it applies the pyro element to characters within the field. This is an absolutely insane elemental burst. It applies pyro to everybody and gives you an attack bonus if you don't need the healing. However, the healing is pretty darn insane if you do need it. The skill attributes here are right here. The skill damage is actually pretty high. The healing is 6% of the max HP, and then this is the attack bonus ratio. And remember, it does scale with Bennett's base attack. And one thing to note is that it has a pretty low energy cost. Most elemental bursts have an 80 cost, and some of the shorter ones actually have a 60. So you get this pretty darn fast. And this is how that skill levels up. It does scale the max HP and the damage and the attack bonus ratio, just helping out all three, making it an absolutely incredible talent. And then this is what that looks like. He slams the ground and creates a circle that heals, and you see it's healing me for about 1200 every second, and now I just have a free little attack bonus. And one thing to note here, it is applying the pyro to myself. If you could see at the bottom there, it was also getting canceled out by the rain here incidentally, but that is just something important to note. It also applies pyro to everything else in it, so what I like to do is usually use sucrose, gather them all up in there, and then switch to either Razor Official and do an overload lightning damage to them there. Moving on to Bennett's fourth talent here, we have Rekindle. It decreases Passion Overload's cooldown by 20%. This is very nice, especially since the first charge of Passion Overload does pretty darn good damage and has a short cooldown, making this an even faster cooldown, especially when you pair it with Bennett's fifth talent, Fear Not here. Once you get Fear Not within the area created by Fantastic Voyage, Passion Overload takes on the following effects. Its cooldown is reduced by 50%. Bennett will also not be launched by the effects of the charge level 2. So to put that into perspective, once you get this talent, Bennett starts to get a little crazy. You drop Fantastic Voyage, and then all of a sudden, you already have a base 20% cooldown reduction of Passion Overload, which already has a short cooldown in general. But not only that, now that you have Fear Not, you're getting an extra 50% cooldown for Passion Overload, just allowing you to basically spam it as long as Bennett is out and inside Fantastic Voyage. And for Bennett's final talent here, it should be safe. When dispatched on an expedition in Mondstadt, time consumed is reduced by 25%. So same thing as Official. If you aren't using Bennett in your party at the time, he's an excellent exploration option, as he just cuts down those extremely long exploration times. Getting into the constellations here, I will say Bennett has some insane constellations, and if you have a Bennett with at least 2 constellations, I would highly suggest just please using him, because these are pretty darn crazy constellations. The first one here being Fantastic Voyage's attack increase no longer has an HP restriction and gains an additional 20% base attack. That's pretty darn crazy. So even if you are below the 70% HP threshold, not only are you going to be getting healed from Fantastic Voyage, you're still going to get the normal attack bonus that you would, plus an additional 20% base attack. For Bennett's second talent here, we have Impasse Conqueror. When Bennett's HP falls below 70%, his energy recharge is increased by 30%. This is all kind of moving towards the idea that Bennett is just going to be able to spam Fantastic Voyage as much as possible, applying an attack buff and healing everybody as much as humanly possible. Moving on towards that third constellation, Unstoppable Fervor. It increases the level of Passion Overload by 3, maximum upgrade is 15. We've all seen this before, everybody's got 2 of these on their constellations just to increase those talents. On to Bennett's fourth constellation here. I don't really understand how this works. It's called Unexpected Odyssey. Using a normal attack when executing the second attack of Passion Overload's charge level 1 allows an additional attack to be performed. This additional attack does 135% of the second attack's damage. So I'm not entirely sure what this is saying. I think it's saying you get an additional attack in the charge level 1 Passion Overload. However, I'm not exactly sure, because it says while executing the second attack of Passion Overload, if you use a normal attack, then you get the benefit here. Not entirely sure how that works. If anybody has a constellation for Bennett, please let me know. I'm really interested to know. And then for the fifth constellation here, nothing too special. As I said, everybody's got 2 of increasing the level of Fantastic Voyage by 3. Then for the sixth constellation here, Fire Ventures with Me. Sword, Claymore, or Polearm wielding characters inside Fantastic Voyage's radius gain a 15% pyro damage bonus. Normal and charged attacks now do pyro damage. I think this is a really nice cherry on top, especially if you're running in a dual fire team, getting that additional 25% attack. You are now getting an additional 15% pyro damage, and your normal and charge attacks become pyro damage as well. I think this can become really strong and allow Bennett to push the envelope of the kind of builds he can be in if you actually get him to Constellation 6 here. With that said, we're going to be moving on to the build suggestions here. However, before we do, for those of you interested in Bennett's lore here, you can read up right here and pause the video if you would like. And there you go. Now, moving on to build suggestions with Bennett. I do have a few notes about Bennett here, as he's a really interesting character to build. You can build him in one of two ways, in my personal opinion. You can build him just to be an absolute ult spammer, where he just has a bunch of energy recharge, like my 5-star weapon here gives 35.7% additional energy recharge, and my artifacts here are giving, like the exile set, are giving that energy recharge as well. That way you can just drop his ult and then switch to somebody like Razor or Jingling to do the damage. However, the way his talents and constellations play out, such as Fear Not, make me think that in the future, once you do get Fear Not, you might want to be building Bennett as your primary DPS. Because once you get a talent like this, it allows you to essentially spam his first ability, Passion Overload, meaning he's going to be able to push out a ton of damage. But for now, until I get that particular talent, I think I'm going to be building him in that sort of ult spammy way. The actual healing for his elemental burst there is really insane though, so I've actually been replacing him for Barbara, and I haven't run into a situation yet where I really miss Barbara. There's been a couple of times where I'm just not really paying attention to the health of my characters, and I kind of let one slip through the cracks, like Fischl died once, but I've easily could have kept her in the green if I just had her out when Bennett's elemental burst was going. So that's just something you have to keep in mind if you are going to be using Bennett as your primary healing, is that you need to swap to the characters who need the heal. But other than that, it's a fantastic heal, and the damage bonus is absolutely insane, allowing you to deal a bunch of damage. And one thing I want to note here is that if you put him in that dual fire combo, you're also going to be getting that awesome increase attack by 25%, which is pretty insane. One of the better elemental resonant effects, if you ask me. So I think a really good combo is something like Jingling and Bennett. I also really like Sucrose in the party because she allows you to keep everybody in the circle with her abilities. And then having somebody to provide overload is also really nice. I think Fischl is probably the best choice for Bennett, because that way you can have her abilities going while you're trying to deal damage with Bennett. However, if you aren't having Bennett as your primary DPS or Jingling as your primary DPS, then maybe you could have somebody like Razor providing that overload instead. And I almost forgot here, but the stats you're going to want to focus on for Bennett are 1, energy recharge, and then 2, attack. You really want to focus on attack whether you're using him for the ult spam or not, because the ult spam does scale based off of his attack. As you see here, it says if the health of the character in the circle is higher than 70%, they gain an attack bonus that is based on Bennett's base attack. So you'll be getting 56, or if I level this up, 60% of what Bennett's actual attack is right here, which is just going to be that nice little increase to your party. So regardless if you're building him for the ult spam or actual DPS himself, you're going to want to increase his attack and his energy recharge. With that said, I think primary set bonuses you want to focus on are things like Exile, where they give you that energy recharge, as well as other sets that just give you that additional attack bonus, and maybe a pyro damage attack bonus. Something like this could be really nice, especially if you have that Constellation 6. However, I think focusing on his normal attack is probably more important. My final thoughts here on Bennett are that he is an incredibly strong support character. His elemental burst and how fast he gets it is an amazing assist to the entire team. And I think he really benefits from having teammates that have abilities that stick around and then swapping to him so he gets the benefits for his first ability back. I will note that the first ability is very strong, but the fact that it takes a while to charge up can be a little bit annoying at first, but once you get it down and understand how to use it against your enemies, it's definitely a lot more effective. It also has some pretty good reach, so even if you charge it up and they back up a bit, you'll still be fine. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But Bennett is definitely going to be replacing my Barbara heals for now, as his heals have been substantial enough. If that changes, I will let you guys know in the future. However, so far he's been an incredible healer for me, and I plan to keep him as basically my main healer for a while, as I also really like the 25% attack bonus I get for having him with Jingling. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe for more. Comment below as well. I always love having conversations in the comment section. And but I think that's it. My name is Blossoms, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.